Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to be replacing the axle bushings on a Marx post-war locomotive. This mechanism actually belongs to the RDC, but the procedure and the bushings are the same for any post-war engine. These are the bushings. So this was in bad shape when I got it. It's actually the only Marx engine I've ever encountered that was locked up so tight that I actually could not move the wheels with my hands when I got it. Now they're freed off and it does run, but I mean the play in the axle bearings is just atrocious. Let me focus that in for you. I mean it's done. It needs axle bushings. So that's what we're gonna do. You'll need your bushings, some implement of pulling. This, I don't know if this was made specifically for model trains, but it did come from Robert Grossman's Marx Parts website, so should work nicely. You'll also need a green scouring pad for cleaning stuff up. And then of course you'll need something to press the wheels back on to the locomotive once the bushings are replaced. I'm going to be using a tool vise for that. It's also possible to use a press. Some people like to put a socket here on the wheel and tap them on with a hammer. That's a little rough in my opinion, but I guess if you don't have a vise, it might be the only thing available to you. So, all right, so I'm going to start on the geared side here. This is because the jaws of the puller are not going to be able to grip the flange on the other side where there are no gears. And make absolutely sure that the jaw is grabbing the flange and not the geared part of the wheel. If the jaw is sitting on that geared part, it's going to deform the gear when it pulls the wheel off. So now I'm just going to straighten this up here. And I'm just going to start twisting this lever at the top of the puller until the wheel comes off. On that. Good Lord. No wonder it ran bad. You can see daylight coming through the gap. Yep, it's time for new axle bushings. Okay, so this is where stuff starts to get complicated. The ends of these axles are splined. That's this texture right here. That holds the wheel on. You can't put the new bushing on over the spline because it's wider than the inside of that bushing. So what you have to do, unfortunately, is sand the spline off the axle. Then you can put the bushing on. Of course, check your work often and make sure that you're not overdoing the sanding off the spline. This wheel still has plenty of grab, even after I took sandpaper to the spline on the end of the axle. So I just, sanded it for a couple seconds and checked the fit of that bushing and then did it again. And after about 6 or maybe 8 checks, the bushing slid onto the axle. And that's when I stopped. So these bushings aren't actually held on by anything other than the wheel backing up against them. So all you do is take the axle, set one bushing on the shaft, put it in one side, set the other bushing over top the other end, of course making sure to keep the two blank wheels on the side opposite the gears and the geared wheels on the gear side. So what you should be left with is something that looks like this. All you're going to do is line the bushings back up in the frame, take it over to your press or vise, and smush these wheels on. Just be sure that the gears are meshed when you start pressing, and you're good to go. All right, that's all reassembled. I left a little bit of side-to-side play. Marx engines tend to like that. That's it. It's pretty hard to keep your hands clean when you're doing these projects. I went back and forth between the vise and the wheel puller to get the spacing on the axles the way I wanted it. You can see new brushes in there. So I'm going to put this back in the shell and give it a little test run and see how it does. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope now you know how to fix your Marx post-war engine that might have bad axle bearings. Yeah, happy railroading.